2 of the cost section of the theory of the firm unit. Last lesson, I tried to introduce what diminishing marginal returns was, give some examples of it, and explain how that shapes the MC, AVC, and therefore ATC curve. This diagram here on the right is what you need to be able to draw by the end of the cost section. So today we'll be looking at more detail about what these curves actually are, but hopefully the theory of diminishing marginal returns, which you need to use as an explanation of the shape, it is kind of known to you now, but we just need to look at these individual curves. So just looking at this diagram, first of all, we've got the average fixed costs in the red. Okay, so that's an asymptote where it's an average curve that's never going to hit zero. We've got the MC curve that's going down, diminishing marginal returns kicks in, and then the costs start to rise of increasing the output. That will always intersect AVC and ATC at their lowest point. Okay, so that's something very important when you draw it. It must intersect the lowest point of the blue and green curve. So today we're looking at types of costs and the diagram. Okay, a bit more detail. So you may know these from GCSE business, GCSE economics, but fixed costs are costs that don't change with the amount produced. So for example, if you're renting a factory from a landlord, that landlord will always want that rent. That person does not care if you're producing 0 units or 1,000 units, they want the same rent. So to your business, that cost is fixed. It doesn't change with how much you produce. Variable costs that change with the amount produced. So if you're able to buy supplies and then manufacture, you need to buy more supplies to manufacture more. So those costs will change the more you make. And then total costs, you just add the two together. So it's your total cost for the business, whether that's per month or per year, but you add the fixed costs and variable costs together. Marginal costs, this is the one that's probably new to a lot of you, is basically it's the additional cost of one additional output. So if you're making, let's say you're making 900, what is the change in total costs of then making 901 units? What was that 901st cost? Okay, so the formula for that would be change in total cost divided by the change in output. And that's the marginal cost. What we want to see is how much is it going to cost to make one more? And this is interesting when you look at things like a football stadium or an airplane that has a very specific capacity, and how much does it cost to bring on an extra passenger? What is the marginal cost of an extra passenger? And that heavily influences pricing strategy then. Okay, so we've got a table here that hopefully you can work through. If you want to pause the video and fill it in, that's good. But essentially, it should hopefully illustrate what I'm trying to say. So we've got variable costs here. At zero, it's zero. If you're not making any output, you don't need to spend on variable cost. However, the fixed cost is going to stay the same. Okay, so at zero, there's still a fixed cost of 10. Total cost at zero is going to be the variable cost plus the fixed cost. So total cost is 10. There's no marginal cost at zero. Let's move to we're making 1 unit of output. So we're now spending $10 on on whatever supplies we need to make this 1 unit. The fixed cost will stay the same at 10. Total cost will then have 10 plus 10, 20. So let's have a look at the finish through. So what was the change then in total cost of going from 0 output to 1 unit? Well, you can see the total cost column. The change was 10 to 20. So 20 minus 10 is 10. And the change in output was 1. So it's literally 10 over 1, marginal cost of 10. Okay. The change in total cost was $10 in order to make 1 unit there. Let's move down to unit 2. So unit 2, the variable cost was 17. The fixed cost doesn't change. It's still 10. So total cost was 27. If we have a look at the total cost column from output 1 to output 2, we had total cost of 20. It then became 27. What was the cost of making that second unit? The increase in total cost, it was $7. So the marginal cost of the second unit was $7. And we can see that that is lower than the first unit. So what we're seeing is an MC curve that is actually going down. Okay, it's getting smaller. It was 10, now it's 7. And then when we look at the third unit, what we see is the marginal cost goes from 7 up to 8. So it's starting to rise again, and is going to continue to rise all the way down to the 6th unit where it's $50. So you can already sort of imagine the shape of the MC curve, which is what we're going to draw, like a big tick. And essentially this is all due to the fact that to make the second output, that $10 to $17, well, there was obviously some sort of advantages of increasing the production, some sort of specialization going on potentially. And then what happened is diminishing marginal returns kicked in on that third unit, where the marginal cost has increased from 7 to 8. That shows you that diminishing marginal returns is taking effect there, because it's increasing that marginal cost, and it's going to keep going up and up and up. Okay, so using the averages and abbreviations to put this onto the diagram we want to find the average. This makes it better to be relative to, say, the selling price of one unit, but also marginal cost is relevant for one unit. So we need to have a look at these averages. So if I say AFC, it's average fixed cost. So you just take your fixed costs, divide by the quantity. AVC is the total variable cost divided by the quantity. And then ATC, you're going to take total cost divided by quantity. So it's a very simple average, but those are what the abbreviations mean. And if we add that to the table that we showed just now, we use the formula from what I've just shown you to apply at all levels. So at output 1, for example, the average variable cost, you're dividing 10 by 10, et cetera, et cetera. But what you'll see is the average variable cost starts at 10, goes down to 8.5, then 8.33, and then rises back up again. So actually the average variable cost has that U-shaped curve that we need to show on the diagram. If we have a look at AFC, this is what I described before as an asymptote. So the value will never ever hit 0, because it's just an average of a fixed value initially. So it starts at 10, then it's divided by 2, then it's divided by 3, then by 4, then by 5. So it's going to slowly decrease, but never reach the x-axis 0. And then ATC, what we can see is it starts at 20, it goes down as the average variable cost goes down, but as the average variable cost goes up, it starts to go up again as well. And obviously the ATC is just the AFC plus AVC. So this is what it looks like on the diagram then. I've just done the snapshot of those averages curves that we took from the right-hand side of the last table. And this is what it would look like plotted on a diagram. So that's your cost curves. You've got your AFC, which is slowly getting smaller and closer to the x-axis. MC, as they're being more efficient, and then diminishing marginal returns kicks in. So then that starts to rise again. And then the impact that has on AVC. So that brings AVC down. But as soon as the marginal cost is higher than AVC, it will start to drag up the AVC, okay? In the last video, I explained about if the marginal cost is below the average variable cost, it brings down the average of all the products that are being produced. But then as soon as that marginal cost, the cost of producing one more unit, is higher than the average, it will start to drag up the average of all the products produced up till then. And so that's why the average will go down and then rise back up again. And if we were to add the red curve to the green curve, we get the blue curve. And again, MC is doing the same effect, going through the lowest point of ATC. Okay. So that's the aim of the video then. Number 1 video was diminishing marginal returns. This one was types of curves and the cost diagram. You need to practice doing the diagram. When we add revenue and then profit to this diagram, it's something that you need to be very comfortable with.